Hi guys, and welcome back to the channel. Been a manic week for us. Got plenty on here. Had a lot of phone calls, some of which are beneficial to us and some of which are not. But you've got to take all these calls and try and please everyone. But anyway, so the reason for today's video, we got involved with an engine January of last year. And when I say got involved, this engine came to us. It had previously been rebuilt by another company who built the engine, put the engine into the car and went about mapping it on a dyno. And the engine let go on the dyno, and there was all sorts of toing and froing on who was responsible, etc. So the reason we got involved with it is the customer bought the engine to us, wanted us to inspect it. We then employed an independent engineer to come in and inspect the engine and sort of do a report on it, really. I mean, this was all going to be going to court. It didn't in the end, but I think the customer just sort of cut his losses and then got us to rebuild it. But anyway, the original problem with the engine looked like it was all starvation issue. So we went about and sized everything on the engine and, you know, measured it, replaced what needed to be replaced. The engine in question was a 2.5 Mazda engine, a bit like the Duratec engine, but the 2.5 4-cylinder. And so the customer, we had to go through the cylinder head. There was actually nothing wrong with that. There was nothing wrong with the bores either. Although we recommend reboring, the customer, you know, or fitting liners or whatever, the customer didn't want to do that. He wanted to keep the original pistons. Obviously, by this time he was probably sort of £3,000 or £4,000 in already and ended up with a trashed engine. So it was, he went ahead and wanted to re-ring the engine, although that's not normally what we do. We did that with obviously a disclaimer against it. We ground the crankshaft, we sized the con rods, and we put in obviously new crank bearings, etc. So yeah, that was 11 months ago. Now this engine is not in the vehicle it's intended to be in. It is in a trial car, I believe. So it's a sort of, I think the sort of trial he does is a sort of slow off-road, you know, different variations of ground angles and what have you. So I think he had a sump made, one because of the clearance in the vehicle, so he needed a very shallow sump, and the sump was then big wing to hold a 4.5 litre capacity. I would have thought on something like that you would need to go dry sump, but you know, what do we know about it? So he went away, took this engine away. I believe it was about 3 months ago, I got an email off the gentleman. He's obviously put it on a sort of homemade bench dyno and run the engine up. And he said he was getting good oil pressure at cold, but not so good oil pressure when it was warm. When we got to the bottom of it, it sounded like he was using a 030 oil, which was a bit thin, really. So I suggested, we always suggest really on any engine, go away, run it in for as close to 500 miles as you can on a 1040 competition Millers or something like that. So away he went, got that, and I believe that the oil pressure was better. He then got back to us about a month ago saying that the engine had not gone bang, but sounded like someone had poured a bag of nuts and bolts into it. He was never really happy with the oil pressure, and he's going to take the engine out and put another Mazda in there of some sort, and he'd like the engine looked at. So we haven't really discussed the sort of warranty claim on this, although our warranty disclaimer does state that for competition use and anything other than manufacturer recommendation on any of the parts, you know, it's down to you. I mean, he was using, although it was different to the original, it was still a sort of aftermarket remote oil filter housing sort of set up. Whether that was for clearance in the car, I don't know, but he was using that. I think this sump was different to the original sump, although it was, you know, distinctly non-standard and aftermarket. That's what he used. We didn't put the sump on it anyway. All we did was put the oil pump on there. So I think by the sounds of it, before he did use the car and it ended up sounding like a one-man band, he changed the oil pump. We put the oil pump on, and it was a genuine brand new oil pump from Ford, and he supplied that and we fitted that. He then changed it to another brand new genuine pump because he thought that's maybe what was causing the low oil pressure, but no different with that. So it had another new pump on it that he fitted, and lo and behold, the other day he turned up with it. Now, he's not been, in fairness, he's not been that funny about it. I did wonder what was his sort of point through the emails, and he dropped it off yesterday, and I said to him, you know, I'll get to it and I'll strip it down and just see what's going on in there. So I've got a little video here of what we found once we've stripped most of the main girdle off there, and obviously the big end bearings. So here we got the Mazda. We've took the main bearing carrier off. The carrier obviously consists of all the main bearing caps that holds the crankshaft in. The rods are still in down there, but we have removed the caps to obviously inspect the bearings. And what we have found is number 1 main looks a little bit rough. Obviously had debris running around there, either that or just started to sort of starve of oil. Number 2, 3 and 4 main don't look too bad, as does number 1, 3 and 4 big end journal. Number 5 main doesn't look too brilliant, and see down there, number 2 big end is the one that has spun a bearing. So here is number 2 rod cap, which doesn't look great obviously, and these are the bearings, which are now ideal for shaving. So if we have a look at the other bearings, they don't look brilliant. This thing distinctly looks like it's started to starve of oil somehow. The main bearings don't look too brilliant. So this is the oil pump stripped. This is the second pump that the customer has fitted since we built the engine. The first pump was a brand new genuine Ford pump, and this is also a brand new Ford genuine oil pump. I don't think there was anything wrong with the first pump, but I think he just wanted to try another pump to see if that would up the pressure. But as I said, I don't think the pressure was due to the pump or anything like that. I think it was just the fact that he put a 030 oil in for running in purposes, but I think it was just too thin. As you can see, there's plenty of debris in this oil pump and going around, so I'm not sure how long this pump's been running in the engine, but obviously there's going to be contamination for that crank bearing that's gone there in the oil, but yeah, it doesn't look good at all. So this is the gasket that was on the oil pump, it goes here, and obviously the pickup bolts to this, the oil pickup. This looks like a homemade gasket, which obviously we didn't fit, and whether that was there before or whether it was created when the pickup was took off, but there is a split there, which if it's been running like that, I mean, this is a fairly hard material, but that's obviously going to draw in air. But as you can see, that is where the oil pump sort of goes round to the outside diameter. So most of this gasket has been overlapping inside and would be restricting some oil flow, but whether that's anything to do with it, I do not know. The only thing that we did notice that was certainly not done when we did it, and whether it was because he needed more clearance for the sump, but the top of these two mains bolts and the nuts have been ground off, so they have obviously been done in situ, and where all the grinding dust went, you can only hazard a guess. Not going to do the oil any good at all, or the contamination to the oil. So as you can see by that video, it definitely looks to us like it's had a sort of oil starvation or an oil surge issue. Whether the debris in the oil was anything to do with someone grinding the top of those two main studs and nuts, I do not know, but that is certainly something that never happened here, and it certainly weren't like that when it left here. So I can only tell by the grinding marks that go straight across the nut and the stud that the nut wasn't removed, it was done in situ, because it's sort of in line, and that is, there's only one place that grinding dust is going to go, and that's straight into the engine, and I shouldn't imagine for 1 minute that you've got any chance of cleaning all that out, so that ain't going to help. And then you've got, as you've seen, you've got the homemade gasket on the oil pickup there that goes onto the pump. Distinctly hard material, got a crack in it, it's overlapping, it's very poorly made. So yeah, not convinced by that. If that's drawing in air, that's not going to do the oil pressure any favours. So it's one of those really. As I say, I'm going to have the chat with the customer, and although there was not really any sort of warranty, we always like to take the engine back and inspect to see what's happened. Feel free to comment underneath, see what you think, and think what we should be doing here. As I say, really I suppose all that was needed with this was just one phone call to say, you know, it's nothing to do with us, we haven't really got involved with putting the sump on or the pump on, or it's non-standard and all this, but we do like to have it back and inspect it just to sort of see for our own purposes what's gone wrong with it. But yeah, let us know what you think on that, guys. Smash that subscribe button if you would, like, and definitely put some comments underneath, and yeah, interesting one. Let me know what you think, but I'll see you in another one. You take care, guys. Bye.